Welcome to the Dollar Auction Show with Alex and Shimon. How are you doing this wonderful week, Alex?
I'm doing fantastic this wonderful week, Mr. Shimon. How are you doing this wonderful week?
Well, I'm doing great. The Bitcoin price crashed hardcore, and now it's slowly but surely recovering, and so I'm really happy about that. So that's why I'm doing fantastic. I was just listening to a podcast analyzing the ETF flows, and basically the conclusion was that barely any new money has come in. It basically the price run up before the ETF was like all the institutional people buying, because they knew the ETF would be approved. And then basically since then, we haven't had new money. I don't remember how they reached that conclusion, but they did some math.
I
So
think
yeah, we're just waiting.
we're just waiting. Well, yeah, most investment advisors haven't, it's too early for them. They need to be educated on these products. They don't know what it is. And like Bitcoin is hard. I was talking to someone earlier today and they're like, look, these things can get lost. People don't understand this. How could regular people invest in it? I'm like, look, the ETF will take care of all that. But even still, investment advisors need to understand what this ETF is, what Bitcoin is, how to sell it, how to understand the volatility, how to talk to the clients about volatility, how to explain when it goes down to hold or not, answer questions. It's not a career risk of just recommending something, even if it goes up. So it's probably gonna be I'm looking at thinking like June to the end of the year when we first start seeing actual new money come in. It just takes some time to get this thing going. Remember that there was a study, I forgot who made it, but only 34%, this is in late December, only 34% of investment advisors believed that the ETF would be approved in all of this year, let alone in
Yeah,
January.
yeah, yeah. I heard this. I think it was on the Scott Melker podcast this morning. But yeah, exactly. It's like basically so many investment advisors thought it's not going to be approved, so then it got approved, but their calendars are kind of full. So it's like it's not like you can immediately start funneling client money into Bitcoin. You have to meet with the clients, you need to explain to them or whatever. So like even if you really, really want it, it's gonna take some time. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking, what's the optimistic scenario? Are you ready for some moon juice, Alex?
Ooh, give me some moon juice.
So last time I was just talking to one of my team members at Unchained about this. Last time Bitcoin did a 4x, it took like 6 or 7 months. It was
Yeah.
like in 2021. Basically, when you look at like the peak of 60K and the trough of like 12K or whatever, it literally took from October 2020 to April of 2021. So like this is 6 months. So there is a scenario, and it was exactly the same time in the cycle, having monetary easing. We should talk about the monetary easing, by the way, because like some really interesting data came today. But
Okay.
anyway, so 6 months. So 6 months from now, we could be at 160,000. 100. Yeah, yeah. 4 times 4, $160,000
I mean,
per Bitcoin.
listen,
We could, we
listen.
could, if the cycle repeats. There is a argument that every cycle it's less aggressive than the previous one, so maybe it will take. Yeah. But basically, yeah, I wanted to show a price, something that I posted on Twitter, and we can talk about it. Why I think the single most bullish thing is monetary easing. China is easing like crazy. There's just monetary easing all over, and for different reasons. But this is really good for Bitcoin. And I have a tweet here showing that basically the Bitcoin price really follows the monetary supply. And so it seems that the monetary supply is at a turning point. So I wanted to show this. Oh, here we go. I'm going to
Yeah.
share my screen.
While you're doing this, I think our listeners, hopefully our listeners who've talked about this before, know that Bitcoin price, asset prices in general, follow M2, which is the monetary supply. But turning point, you say, oh, am I interested? Tell me more.
Yeah, so this orange line here is the M2, and for those of you listening on audio only, you see pretty much the orange line really, really go up aggressively from 2018, and it peaked at the end of 2021 or somewhere mid 2022. And then first the orange line started going up, and then Bitcoin went up with the lag, right? So you can see this lag here. And so now you see this double bottom in the money supply. So I think that's what happened is they tried to reduce it, everything crashed, then they increased it a little bit, they tried to reduce it again. For some reason it didn't work, so they increased it again. So there is a basically what I think will happen is the orange line will keep going up. And that means that the blue line shortly thereafter will go up really aggressively.
Before you, I want to ask you about this post actually. So it's interesting. Going up, Bitcoin is lagging M2. But going down, Bitcoin is leading M2.
Yeah, it's very
Why
interesting.
do you think that is?
Well, yeah, no, it's a very good point. I think many people saw that like November, October 2021 was unsustainable and forget about like Bitcoin. I'm talking about everything. Do you remember all the markets were pumping? Inflation was really hot. Like I ordered a Tesla. It took me like forever to get it because so many people were buying Teslas. And now you can just like order a Tesla, get it within a couple of weeks. So my point is like everybody knew that the economy is running too hot, that they're going to have to tighten. Smart money is in Bitcoin, and they front ran the market. And this is not the first time it happens. That's my thesis. What do you think?
Yeah, I really don't know actually. It's the first time looking at the chart. Maybe you're right. I don't have a good perspective on this. Yeah, I don't know. All I know is I'm just excited for the ETF to kick in. We're talking about this a little bit, and so I'm excited for that price action to happen.
Yeah, and also like what the orange line here was just US, but the monetary supply is very correlated. So like when one person starts printing money, it gives almost permission for the other ones to do the same because people are worried that the currency, that was my job before business school, currency trading. It's a fascinating world. So basically the idea is like if I devalue my currency, but nobody else devalues their currency, I get to benefit from it because then I can basically sell stuff for cheaper. Basically get more money for the stuff I sell, and I still pay salaries in my devalued currency. But central banks are not stupid, so they keep track of these things. So like when one central bank starts devaluing their currency, the other ones pile on because they're like, we want to do it too. And so it's yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. I mean, China, I heard they're in deep trouble because of all the leverage in their real estate sector, and also they don't have growth, like at least like population growth. Like at least in the U.S. we have population growth. That's one of the most important things that sets the U.S. apart. And also, like speaking of illegal immigration, I'm really for illegal immigration. I think that more people in this country is better. And it's just a matter of figuring out how to divide the resources between people who are here and can vote, people who are here and cannot vote. But I think we should be able to solve it. I proposed on Twitter something like just let everybody in, but they have to go through a port of entry, give a fingerprint, and then just let them in, let them work, let them live. They can't vote, but you can just live in the US. And that's what made the US amazing in the 19th century. They basically took the most entrepreneurial people from all over the world because it was hard to get here. It's not easy to just like move from your home in Honduras to here, even if you can just walk in legally. It's just not easy. You have to find new friends, you have to find a job. So like the people that make it are the most energetic and entrepreneurial people. Those are the people we want here in the country. And so that's why I think the US will do better than other countries, and other countries will have to print even more money than the US, which is really good for Bitcoin.
This is an interesting point. I don't know if I agree with you. I'm actually surprised I'm taking the opposite side, but in principle, or on surface, more immigrants is better. However, we now have a complete shit show of a crisis at the border, and even now, Democrats, Dean Phillips was running, and RFK are talking about this. It's pretty bad. I mean, having complete open borders and not checking, like you said, fingerprints and identification, and we're not checking anyone.
Yeah,
We're not. They're just like walking in. You cannot. That's not sustainable. And the Democrats want these guys to vote because there's no ID cards and so on and so forth, so that these guys vote Democrat and Democrats stay in power. That's, I think, the cynical part about this whole thing. And then Trump, Biden now causing a constitutional crisis. I agree with the states. If you're just getting a lot of people in, you see these videos. That's not sustainable. Then you bust them to schools. You bust them to New York. In New York and Brooklyn, a storm a few weeks ago, and they couldn't put these people, like they were like on the street, so they made students in schools work from home or study from home to put, the immigrants in schools. That's where I think it starts becoming, it's too
Exactly.
much, right? You cannot do that. That's not okay. And I'm an immigrant, you're an immigrant. My kids were born from two immigrants, like most of our friends are immigrants. Totally for this. We've gone through this whole process, but not the way it is now. And it actually undermines legal immigration. It's like, well, you have to go
Of
through all
course.
of these steps to go legally, or you can just walk in illegally. So why would you bother going through all that? Because being a legal immigrant and staying here to work and have work permits, it is painful. It's painful. It's just
Yeah.
government bureaucracy. It's like layers and layers. So I don't know what you think about the border crisis.
Well, no, that's what I say. I think we should shut the border, but just let more people in through the ports of entry. So I completely agree that it it just doesn't make sense. I saw, I saw like a video where some boat, some dinghy, crashes into a beach like in California,
Yeah, they're
and
running.
they're just running. And I was like, we're so lucky that these people are so nice because, like in Israel, Hamas did exactly that and then murdered a bunch of people. So it's like, thank you, immigrants, for being so nice and not causing trouble. But I mean, come on, you let a boat just come and like, how is that? Like, what if it's ISIS?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. But what if it is ISIS now? What if
no,
if you're ISIS or if you're a terrorist organization, why wouldn't you use this clear advantage and just sneak into the country and
yeah,
start sleeper cells?
yeah.
It's like I don't understand the
Fix it.
policy.
They'll have to fix it because, like, I don't know. I think more and more Democrats think that it's basically like the reason why the Democrats are doing it is exactly what you said, which is they want more voters. But the problem is because the votes are by state, when you bus people to blue states, it kind of defeats the purpose. And that's why now the blue states, like the mayors, are against it because it's not helping us. It's not even helping us in the election. It's just draining our services. And then people say it's not okay to bus people. Like it's some tweet, it's unconstitutional for Texas to do this. It's like literally one of the only things that's guaranteed in the Constitution is free movement between states. So how can you say that putting someone on a bus, like buying them a ticket, also they're not forced to buses. They're just like buying them tickets for buses and then they just go to blue states because that's where you can
Yeah,
get services. Like in red states, you can't get services for free.
I don't know if I don't know enough about this. I like buses if they're paying for tickets or not, but I guess not. It's just it's just too much. It's just too much. I don't know. I think leveraging this and moving into the election, the more I read about and the more videos I see of Biden, frankly, like regardless of politics, you want to vote Democrat. But there's like Dean Phillips. They just have no one in the running. Dean Phillips is coming up, is the only alternative. RFK, but he's an independent now because the DNC squashed him. The fact that DNC is rigging the election or the primaries for Biden, and they're like, this is the guy. And you look at Biden, let's say you agree with his policies, right? Like, let's say you are, I like Biden from the 70s and 80s and 90s, and I agree with his policies. The man has clearly is losing cognitive abilities. And let's not mince words. It's like, I'm a little bit tired of also, I'm on this whole kind of PC non-woke movement. I'm tired of mincing words over things that are evidence. And then it's like that story, the king's new groom, or whatever, the emperor's clothes. When the emperor is
Yeah.
naked, everybody's like, oh, he's so well dressed. It's like, let's just call it what it is. Biden is in clear cognitive decline to the point where it's embarrassing when he speaks and he's slurring words and he's not coherent and he like after speeches can't figure out which way to get off the stage. At that point, you can agree with the man, you can love the man, you can believe he's a saint, you can believe he's doing the best for his country. There's nothing nefarious there, but he cannot be the president. Just like I don't believe Trump can be because of his, demeanor and because of I think he's a very selfish, sociopathic, narcissistic person. He can't be because of that big character flaw. Biden can't be because he's in cognitive decline. And frankly, I'm kind of going on a diatribe here. I spent a long time last evening listening to Vivek, listening to his speeches. he came off in the beginning really cocky, but I listened to his stances, and I just like it's like I don't know, like a fresh breath of fresh air for the soul. And I don't agree with all of his policies. I probably agree with 85% of his policies. I don't agree with all of them, but at least the man has a stance. He wants to call out the bullshit. He has this whole thing of he's like, look, we have to do a 360-degree view around us and say, we've been fighting each other in this country enough. Like people, we can disagree with people. We can have different stances on policies, and that's okay. We are all Americans. We're all part of this country, and we can create policies that break down the. He calls it the deep state, but he has a very good view. Trump's deep state was like it's nefarious. This deep state out to get me, and he made this. He made it a controversial issue. And Vivek, when you listen to him, he's like, look, there's a bureaucracy machine that's there, and they're not necessarily nefarious, but they
Exactly.
just believe that that they know more about how to run the country than you do.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's it.
Exactly. And the problem with that is that it goes against the concept of democracy. Like the whole point of democracy is that, yes, people will make bad decisions sometimes, or maybe most times, but like there's a self-correction mechanism.
Yeah.
I'm hearing myself double for some reason.
We'll have to cut my AirPods. Okay, 1641.
Maybe it just you can just say I'm not using headphones, and then it changes the.
Just I can't change it on this thing. It just
So do you see
can you,
equal
hello?
cancellation? Yeah, now
No,
it's
what about
great.
now? Do you hear double?
Now it's
It
perfect.
just switched. It switched off my AirPods to the computer in mid talking.
Okay, that's okay. So
Okay,
we'll
let's
just
go
cut. Well,
again.
it's 17:20.
Yeah.
Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So the whole idea of democracy, monarchy is much better, much more efficient. The only problem with monarchy is that you have no way to make changes. And so the whole idea of democracy is like, okay, like, yes, sometimes people will vote for policies that are bad, and the bureaucracy will know that they're bad. They still have to execute on them because otherwise there's no mechanism for correction. There's no way to change. If like, how are you going to change with the deep state? How are you going to change something if like you like Republican, you like Democrat, you get the same policies? How are you going to change?
Sorry, I don't fully understand your point. Explain it
Well,
again.
the point is, so the idea of a democracy versus a monarchy is that you can change stuff. You vote and you can change stuff. The cost of that is that people, on average, are stupid by definition, right? You can put a bell curve of intelligence or whatever. The median is far from, like, I would assume that most bureaucrats are above average intelligence, right? If you look at like the deep state, right? I would assume that the average person that works in the deep state actually is more intelligent than the average person in the country. However, if they block every change, if the deep state blocks every change, it's very similar like a monarchy, where like you have no way to change things. And so that's not a cost that I'm willing to pay. The cost of like sometimes getting to suboptimal decisions, I think, is well worth it, because the benefit is that you can actually change things. So that's my problem with the deep state. And again, it doesn't have to be nefarious, even if they think they know better. Uh, Two things that I read on Twitter that are super interesting that make you question everything. At any given point in time, the scientific consensus was wrong when you look at it from 200 years later. Like mainstream science was always wrong versus mainstream science 200 years later. And then the other thing is that like many things that people thought are very, very important ended up being not important. So like
Is there an example?
wars, I didn't like click on it or whatever, but like just think of like if you look at GDP, uh, World War One, World War Two, Vietnam, Korea, all these wars, Iraq, Afghanistan, very, very big 9/11, huge events, didn't have a huge effect on American society, just like over 100-year span. In the short term, like 5, 10 years, 20 years is huge. Yeah, social problems, whatever. But like on a very long time, we're in a path going forward. So I'm just advocating for like Let's be a bit more chill about things, not take things to, like not get super worked up about small things. And like, that's it. That was my point, basically. Like, I'm getting less worried about like, oh, who's going to win the election. I actually don't really care. I think both my wife and I will vote for RFK Jr. because he's very much pro Bitcoin. He's the most pro Bitcoin president, and we kind of don't like Trump and we don't like Biden. So like, I think it's just like important to make a statement. But do I think there'll be a crazy, crazy difference if Biden wins versus if Trump wins? I don't think so, actually.
I
I
guess the
know that
question is,
we've had disagreements on that, right? You sometimes think that it can undermine institutions, and that's like a big
yeah,
problem.
I think undermining institutions and free speech is a huge problem. But I think it's time horizon. In the long run, sure, everything is, going down a certain trajectory. But life is not, we don't live life in centuries. We sometimes live life in days or hours.
Hmm.
Things change. And so life is very, the scales are minute. And that's what makes life beautiful and precious if you think about it, that anything could change at any moment. And so if you want to live your life and feel free and happy, these things do matter, even if in the long
Which of
run.
the two will make you more free and happy? I have zero idea.
Which two?
Like Trump versus Biden. Who will make you more free and more happy?
I don't know. It's a terrible choice between them. RFK.
That's why we're voting for him.
Yeah, RFK. Neither Trump nor Biden will make him. With Biden, I've seen because of crypto, because of their stance on kind of Bitcoin and crypto. It's it's what you read about in books and magazines about the deep state and them coming after you and it being nefarious and political and they're playing games and you don't believe it until you see it. And I've seen it firsthand here, and it's terrible.
Yeah,
No, it's like legitimately terrible. And so it's very hard for me to vote for Biden because it makes you question, if this, then what else? If they're
yeah,
doing it to me, then what else are they doing to what other games are they playing?
yeah, for
You
sure.
know,
For
that's
sure.
it.
I wish. Let's see what happens. Yeah, again, I don't. I'm just excited about the Bitcoin stuff. I'm also excited about some of the technological stuff. Let's chat about.
And we need
So
to.
Alex has some amazing things to tell us about middle layer interfaces for AI that
Oh,
he has been
middle layer.
experimenting with.
Oh,
I,
middle
I
layer.
actually think it's very, very interesting because, like, currently the problem is if you use ChatGPT as a user, it's pretty good. But if you want to, like, allow other people to use a subset of it or train it on other data, it was really hard to do. And Alex, you've had some experiences recently.
Yeah, so you actually introduced me to this app. It's called Mind Studio. Mind, like MIND Studio. Um, they basically allow you to program AI apps in like 10 minutes. And I started dabbling with it, and it's pretty sweet. I won't exactly say what, but back in the day, Shimon and I tried to put together an AI app, and we used this thing called Bubble. And I remember I was in charge of some of the copy and the webpage, and Shimon was in charge of the logic. And over the course of like 2 or 3 weeks, we were building this thing. And I remember you had these late nights, and you're like, "I figured it out. Now it sends data and returns a query." And da 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 da. We paid like $2,000 for someone to integrate it into our website and to just have a landing page with this whole thing. I did. I redid our entire app with more features because now you can ask you can choose which model, Llama or Gemini or GPT, ChatGPT or others in 5 minutes. Okay, I did in
Amazing.
5 minutes what it took you and us to do 3 or 4 weeks to do a year ago.
Yeah,
By the way,
less than a year
less
ago.
than
It
a
was
year
in
ago.
May. In May we were working on it.
Yeah, so less than a year ago. 3 days, or no, with 3 days, 3 or 4 weeks to 5 minutes. Like people don't appreciate this. What's coming?
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I saw, someone analyzing the stock market over 200 years, and he said, yeah, this is something weird going on because if you draw a trend line for 200 years, in the last 50 years, we're way above the trend line and we're never touching it. That's fascinating, right? Because like what happened in the last 50 years? Like personal
It's a
computers. No, but I'm talking about it is like this, but like this happened even before. Like the stock market always kind of goes up. But the point is the slope almost doubled in the last 50 years. And again, it's because of computers and the internet and
Yeah.
iPhones, and it's like huge things. And so then I I think I can make the case, or I want to make the case, that now this AI will accelerate it even further.
Huge.
So that's why I think one of my most contrarian views is holding double leverage Nasdaq, because it's like I really think people are underpricing it, because they're always looking at the past. They're looking at price to earnings ratios of the past, performance, growth rate, all of that in the past. But you could make the case. I mean, look, OpenAI launched, and it was the most successful launch, right? By orders of magnitude. Like, it was like hundreds of millions of like active users in a really short period of time. So I think the big hits will just become bigger and bigger, and they'll hit faster and faster, because like, also, like, have you seen the VR stuff recently? Did
No.
we talk about that? So it's insane.
Uh,
It's like, so I
Facebook.
bought you for your birthday. Yeah, I bought you for your birthday, like,
Oh
the
yeah.
earlier version that was like $400 or whatever. Now for $700, you can get mixed reality. I was looking at my wife and my son sitting on the couch,
Yeah.
and on top of that, I was shooting little balls that were exploding. And like, you can also, it maps the room. So you can, for example, say this is the Christmas tree, because we did it in Christmas. And like, if the ball is behind the Christmas tree and you shoot it, you don't hit it. You have to go
That's
behind the Christmas
amazing.
tree to shoot the ball. But you see everything. You see the Christmas tree, and you see pretty good. So, before, people were laughing at Meta that, it was like his stick figures and like bad graphics or whatever. And they're like, haha, nobody's going to live in the metaverse. But now Facebook, I think it's like close to all-time high. I haven't looked at the stock price, but like, it's doing pretty well. And I think kudos to Zuckerberg, really kudos to him, because like, he has reinvented this company. This is the third time he's reinvented the company.
Yeah.
You know, First of all was mobile, was a big challenge for them. And then now this is the second challenge, and he bet a lot of money on it, and he got a lot of flack from Wall Street. And I think it's going to pay off, because the Apple stuff costs $3,500, and it's much better. But the Meta thing costs $700. So like, even though it's worse, it's so much more accessible to people.
So I just took a second. I looked it up. You're right. Meta is at an all-time high. The previous all-time high in November or something 21 was 376 per stock per share. Now it's 396. So Facebook just and it's interesting. I probably will have to show the video, but it went up to 376 in let's call it April, late April 21. Crashed all the way down to 123. Okay, so crashed by like 70%, and now it's at all-time highs. It looks like
Like,
Bitcoin.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. No, because like, that's the thing with disruptions. They're very sensitive to everything. They're sensitive to liquidity, right? Like, I'm thinking, Zuckerberg probably had to hire a bunch of people when interest rates were low. Now interest rates are high, so it's like really expensive. But like, so what? You just like, if you have conviction and you stand by it, it's pretty amazing.
we talked about this with you before. There's an interesting way of looking at it, even though I think it's a little bit more of a tongue in cheek. But companies don't, big tech companies specifically, don't mind high interest rates because they have so much cash. Just parking it in the bank at 5% gives them,
Yeah.
like puts off billions of dollars of operating income they can use. Um, oh my God, what a time to be alive! What ride that we've had over the last 2 years, 3 years. Last three
Yeah.
years haven't been easy. Since call it January 22, so all of 22, all of 23, it's 2 years. They've been tough years. We've had some
Yeah.
tough freaking financial years, and we both seen our portfolios crash by 70% or something along those lines, 60 to
Yeah.
70%. It's not easy. It's not easy
No.
to have a crash again. I bought Moderna back in the day. I was like, aha, this is gonna be a genius play. Now look, I've quadrupled the money, but it's at 120, call it 110 now, and it was a 470 at its height. So,
I
you
like
know,
that you say I've quadrupled the money, but, and there's a but like after.
yeah,
Just be thankful that you quadrupled your money.
that's true. That's true. But I 10x'd it before, and now it's gone down a lot. But it does feel like a meme stock almost. It just like pumps and then dumps a lot. Oh
Yeah,
man.
well. Too bad that their boosters aren't effective, so they had to revise all their financial projections. That's why the stock crashed.
Yeah.
Both Pfizer and Moderna. But
Yeah.
either the boosters are not effective, or like COVID has just become like super weak, and so it's not a problem anymore. But because
COVID.
no, because that's the thing with viruses. Like just normally, like any virus, basically, what it wants to do, it wants to spread. So I've studied actually immunology many years ago in college, but there is this thing where like every strain of the virus becomes weaker and weaker, so it can infect more people. Because like imagine if you infect someone with high symptoms, they stay at home. If you
Yeah.
infect someone with low symptoms, they walk around and spread it more.
Speaking of, when you get sick now, do you test for COVID or you just personal
I mean,
interest
I'm
only?
grateful that I haven't been sick. I'm so grateful. Both my kids and I and my wife haven't been sick. Touch wood.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations. You deserve a hand for that because I don't know. With my kids, it's just all germs, like a cesspool of germs. It's kind of crazy.
I mean, we homeschool, so maybe that's a huge factor.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it is because otherwise, I don't know how you guys do it.
yeah, no, for sure. It's but
I have a.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. What do you want
Well,
to say?
didn't we want to talk about China?
We can talk about China. Just to close the thing about Bitcoin, I want to share a moment that I'm very happy about and honored. I spoke to a guy. I'm not going to say who because like it was a private conversation, but it's like traditional finance guy, CEO of major bank, and he basically said, "Look, I just want to help Bitcoin out. I just want to devote my time to help Bitcoin." And I'm like, wow, like a CEO of a major bank, he doesn't need the money, and he was
That's
so
amazing.
passionate. And it just makes me so happy because there's not many things like that. You don't hear someone say, well, I don't know. I guess people who are really passionate about self-driving or about AI could say, like, look, I don't need the money, but I want to advance AI. So not to belittle them, but Bitcoin was such a joke when we got into it
It
in,
was
in
such a
terms of
joke.
public perception. And now to see like traditional finance people really, BlackRock is doing webinars now on how to get exposure to Bitcoin. Like, it's amazing.
That's really amazing. Yeah, and we were talking about this. A BlackRock ad was pretty sick. It was just this boring old guy who's standing there, and he's like, invest in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an asset class like every other asset class. And this little, jacket it just the whole thing was just it made Bitcoin super boring, you know. And then when I first saw
Which
it, I
is what
was
we
like, man,
want it
this
to be. We
exactly we
wanted,
want it to
yeah.
be boring. It's exactly what we want. We want it to be boring. Um, I'm moving around a little bit because I've been sitting all day and my everything hurts now and just need to do move in a different position. We definitely want it to be boring, and I think by making it boring, it normalizes it as an investment vehicle for everyone else. Now, I'm really excited what the CTF is going to bring. I mean, I think people don't fully realize the power until it comes, and it'll come fast enough. But it's a major catalyst in the market. I want to
Yeah,
talk about China at some point.
and I just wanted to say I would be very happy to be right when Arthur Hayes is wrong because Arthur Hayes posted that he thinks Bitcoin's going down. So
Now,
that's it.
but in
Now,
the short term, not in the long
short term.
term.
No, short term.
Yeah,
Long term, he's bullish, but short term, there's a bunch of people that think it's going to retest some levels or whatever. I don't believe it because
I am one of
what's
them.
so special about these levels? It's just like money's flowing in, marketing dollars are being spent. Why would we? Anyway, we've had this conversation many times on this podcast and off this podcast.
Oh,
Now let's talk
actually,
about China. Oh,
wait. Can we
okay.
touch now? I want to touch upon this for a second because I think it's very important when you have a company, Apple, and you have cash flows. You can say,
Hmm.
okay, I can value those cash flows. I can do an MPV of the cash flows, and I know how to value Apple. You cannot do the same thing with Bitcoin because it's a
Hmm.
commodity. So the only way to figure it out is to see how the market values it, and the only way to see how the market values it is by, if a rocket's too far up, you don't have this tension between the bulls and the bears for the market to say, you know what, this price is affirmed. And so when it goes from 30 to 49 and the 30 level wasn't tested, it broke out, right? It's just human psychology. It was push against 30, pushing against 30, pushing against 30, didn't break. broke 31 really quickly up. You got to come back and test it. Is 30? Are you
So I don't
sure?
see the connection between those two. Breaking resistance, I completely understand because it just means there's a bunch of people that will sell large amounts at 30. So every time the price goes there, they just sell, sell, sell.
Yeah.
What is the deal with retesting of a lower level? Like, does
So
that mean,
let's say the selling got exhausted, right? And it goes up to 50, and then people are like, "Well, we'll take some profits," and which is what's happening. They took profits, and it starts going down, right? And then you're like, "Wait a second, we moved very quickly through 30, from 30 to 40." So we moved very quickly. So how do we know that there aren't more people that are willing to sell between 30 and 40, or aren't willing to sell at 30? How do we know that?
no, what do you mean that I guess I
It's
don't
just
understand. So let's say we crashed from 49K to 38K. Why isn't that enough? What's so special about the moving average or whatever that people say 30 or 32? What's so special about that price level versus 38K? Because we did crash to 38, a
yeah,
significant crash. I completely agree that it has to go like this, so it can't go straight up. That I understand. Because like when you go down, yeah, you see where are people like not willing to
yeah.
sell. But what's so special about these levels? That's what I don't understand. People are like, because they were waiting for it to go to 10K when FTX collapsed, and it never went to 10K. So what's
Well,
the
that's
difference between
different.
10K and
That's
17K and
different.
19K?
That's different. 10K has already been established, right? So it's going down. 30K is just you're retesting the previous inflection point in the market. You're making sure that was the right inflection point to be resistance when there were too many sellers, and then also the right point to be support when there are too many buyers. Everyone's coming in like, oh my god, 30 is so cheap. We're gonna have a whole bunch of people buying at 30, right? So then there's not enough bulls that are when the price goes low. If the price goes low, look, let's say you believe in Bitcoin, which you do, right?
Hmm.
And let's say the price goes to $1. You and
Hmm.
I both would sell everything we have, right, to buy as much
Yes,
Bitcoin at $1. Okay,
yes.
but we wouldn't do the exact same thing to buy it at 30 because of risk profiles, different lifestyles, and whatever. So that's it. It's
I
just
think I would
testing the
actually do it
market.
at 30. No, that's a great example. Like you
You would
wouldn't
act in the
sell all
same
of your
way.
stocks. No,
No, you.
I'm saying I would do it sooner than the level you mentioned. That's my point. So my point is, how do you know what is that price? I completely agree that like once the more it goes down, the more I want to buy. But like,
The
how do you know what is enough? You base it on historical levels that show the resistance or whatever. Like, I'm not a technical analysis guy, but those levels are based on some historical performance. My question is, what is the difference between at $100? I would send all my stocks. Like at $100, I would literally buy $1 million worth of Bitcoin. I would sell
but
everything I have. I would sell the house, buy Bitcoin at $100.
Yeah, but that's your personal demand
Yes.
curve. Now the
Hmm.
market is an amalgamation of everyone's demand curves. Somebody might be 1,000 to do the same thing. Somebody's might
Hmm.
be $1 to do the same thing. So this is how the market and aggregate tests. Is 30 the right level where you
Hmm.
have a lot of buyers stepping in, right? Is 30 the level where there's a lot of Shimons that are like, oh my God, this is so cheap based on where I believe it's going to go. I'm going to find new pockets of money and to buy in. Then you hold that level, you buy in, and then the market goes, huh, interesting. People believe in it so much that at 30 they're willing to buy, versus before when it breaks resistance and just goes straight up. It could be a very thin market. A lot of
Yeah.
volume comes in, a lot of buying pressure, but you haven't tested the overall market. You haven't let it digest. You haven't let the market digest the price level yet.
See, that's an argument that I can understand, which is like when it goes up like crazy, every dollar in moves the price by a lot. And so when basically it goes down, you need a lot of a lot of money to come in to offset the buying pressure. So maybe it's just a volume play. It's basically like there wasn't enough volume to maybe it's all about like price times volume. Maybe we can
There's
work
a
on a model that
Well, there
that
are there
says
are
like
indicators. There are
yeah.
indicators that I forgot the indicator's name, but it shows you how much trading has happened, essentially price times volume at a certain level, and you
Hmm.
see they're like stair steps. And when there's a lot of missing air, usually it moves up and down through that price. Usually down because up it's price discovery. So you see moving down through those levels, and then moving back up quickly through those levels where there isn't a lot of action. When there is a
Hmm.
lot of action, it's like solidified. The market debated, come up with a good answer. Here it's like, I think 30 is low. I think 40 is low. And you move on. You need to have this debate. The market has to debate with each other, with itself.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, I'm glad we settled that. Let's see what those levels are. But no, I mean, long term, I'm very, very bullish. So
Me
it
too.
doesn't really matter. Even if we retest 30, it's going to be great. I'm just going to buy some more. Just like I bought 2 Bitcoin when we got to 38K or 39K. That was a very
Nice.
good trade for me. I sold
Give
NASDAQ
me
and
my
bought Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Give me my Bitcoin. Um,
China.
China. China. It's so funny because they essentially came to the U.S. hand in hand, and recently they're coming out with the rumors, or maybe it's fully reported that they went to Iran and basically said you gotta calm the Houthis down a little bit because there's
Hmm.
something global trade. I think it's like they're in deep shit. The
Yeah,
real
no,
estate
it's
problems.
so funny to me because like the people that are most hurt by the Houthis are not the US, because I understand there's a different trade route, but it's Europe and China. So it's like the buyers and the sellers of the trade route, China, Europe. And so China is supposed to be allied with Iran. What are they doing? I don't get it.
Well, yeah, they're really fucking it up for China, and China is the big bear over there for Russia, for Iran, for many of the countries. All these countries are emboldened because they know China has their back. As soon as China doesn't have their back anymore, womp womp womp.
I mean, I think we're moving into a multipolar world. I heard now that for the first time in history, I think in history, anyway, the Indian stock market is more valuable than the Chinese stock market,
Wow.
which I think it's the first time in history because China has crashed so hard and hasn't recovered. And look at the US. I'm so happy about the US economy. And India too, they're very, very dynamic. They're very basically
Yeah.
we have a CFO who's like India. He's been in the US forever, but like he's born in India. And I was telling him about my experiences of visiting India in 2008, and he's like, "You will not recognize the country. Like if you go now versus
Yeah.
2008, it's like a completely different country." And so it's so
We should
interesting.
go. We should do a Actually, I don't know. Do you remember Devika? She used to work for me at OKCoin. She
Mm-hmm.
went to run Avalanche in India. I think she
Mm-hmm.
runs, I don't know, all Avalanche or just partnerships, but you should go visit her.
Yeah, she actually WhatsApped me to tell me that I'm
Good.
this is good. I think that's the thing. So India, Israel, US, Europe, right? That's like one kind of the Western, and hopefully we get a lot of the Middle East. And then you have the other one, which is like the resistance to that, which is the BRICS. And but it's not like the Cold
Dude,
War. That's what's nice.
But India is part of the BRICS.
No, not in policy, not in like
In
basically the
defense.
okay, forget about BRICS. China, South Africa, like all of these countries that basically are contrarian to the.
Why South Africa? When did they become
I
so
think it's because
controversial?
they were burned during apartheid. Like the West basically did things that were not nice, so now they're very much
That were
anti-West.
not nice.
No, seriously, that's my take on it. What do you want me to say? Like,
You
how do you
enslaved the black
describe it?
people.
No, they didn't enslave anybody. Come
Well, what are
on. They
not
didn't
enslaved,
enslave.
but
No, it's like it was racial
apartheid.
discrimination.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
discriminated against them.
yeah,
Yeah. It's terrible. No, I'm not, you know,
yeah,
I'm not saying it's good, but yeah, that's why. But anyway, South Africa doesn't really matter in terms of the economy, but you have Brazil, for example, that's counter the world order versus Argentina and all of these other guys that are pro. So it's going to be very interesting. And I hope that the pressure. So one of my biggest, and we'll talk about China, but one of my biggest worries to your point about Elizabeth Warren. One of
oh
my
boy,
biggest worries is we'll overregulate the technology, right? And just like they tried to do with oil, right? But then what happened with the war in Ukraine broke out, gas prices went up by a lot, and so then Biden is now pumping more oil than Trump, which is good because the population is going up. So like I would expect every president to pump more oil than the previous president just because of
yeah,
population. But like it's just so many people are pissed on Twitter that all this like Green New Deal and everything was just lip service to like some people that like were very vocal about it, but
yeah,
it's definitely so my point is having a strong counter like a tension between the West and this other bloc is actually very good, because then like the West cannot overregulate stuff, because then they'll lose. So I'm actually very hopeful that,
Yeah.
and Balaji has this thesis which is really cool, which is like, look, in AI there will be three models. There'll be the Chinese model, there'll be the Western model, and there'll be the pirate model. So the Chinese model is like, they have the best data because they can force everybody to give them their data, but it's only data that's good for Chinese people, Chinese consumers, Chinese preferences, right? So like the West basically has less data, but it's more relevant, you know? So it's like, you could make a case that a Chinese AI will be good because they have more
Yeah.
data. The Western AI will be good because they have like more relevant data. And the pirate AI will be countries like India. And again, this is Balaji saying it. I don't know why India is friendly to anti-copyright, but he basically gives the idea of Hollywood, how like you and Kaza and Spotify and all of these guys. So basically, if you're far from Washington D.C., the farther you are, the more you can get away with not necessarily following all the laws. And so then the pirate AI will be open source, and it's going to be trained on all the movies, all the songs, all the books. Basically, they'll say like, we don't care about your copyright laws. We're going to train our AI, and then those three AIs will compete with each other and learn
Yeah.
from each other. So it's actually a really good system. If you think about it, that system of three, it's very powerful.
I love this idea. Let's talk about it on the next show. I want to do an AI show. But for now, we have to wrap. I have to wrap.
Perfect.
So thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, the rest of it. Next one, Pirate AI. Let's do a whole episode on this because there's a lot to talk about here.
Sounds good.
Shimon,
It was a pleasure as always.
thank you so much. It was a pleasure as always.